meeting of Ashcroft Council for the final day of September 2020. I move to adopt the agenda as presented. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anderson, thank you.
You have a supplemental in front of you with some late additions. Sorry.
Yep.
The one in front of you is the supplemental agenda. There's
Supplemental agenda.
yeah, there's two
Okay.
extra items. Yeah, there's an expanded patio permission from the Liquor and Cannabis Regulations Board. That
Okay.
is time sensitive, and report from Councillor Anderson.
All right. Do we have the original agenda?
It's actually attached to the original. I just put it in as late item, so the original agenda is
Below
there as well, but not printed.
Okay, gotcha. All right, to adopt the agenda as amended. So Councillor Anderson again, thank you. Any discussion on the question? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. And we have the question period at the end, and at council's pleasure, I would like to move it to the beginning to give anyone in the gallery an opportunity to address council before the meeting as opposed to after. This is using the former template for the special meetings, which we have not used since we changed the question period to the beginning of the meeting. There we go. So everyone's all right? So we will go into question period. Are there any questions from the gallery or from the press? No? No, seeing none then, we have no delegations. So, no, I'm sorry, the only agenda I have here is the addition. I don't have the original one. No, that's the same one.
Oh, you don't have me.
It is. And late items to here, and then the regular.
Oh, okay, sorry, there we go. It's okay, migraine kicking in. All right, so item 5.1, expanded patio permission. What is council's pleasure on this item?
Well, do I need to recuse myself because of this?
Yes.
Yes. I will recuse myself.
And Councillor Tui, do you have a patio?
I just use the sidewalk. Does that count?
She doesn't have a
No,
liquor
she doesn't have a
license.
liquor license.
Okay.
And I don't have liquor license, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I've got the lead.
And the door's right there.
Yeah.
All right, what is council's pleasure on this item? Councillor Tui.
Thank you, Mayor Roden. I'd like to move that we go with the staff recommendation. The council support the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch's extension of the temporary expanded service area licenses to October 31st, 2021.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anstead, any discussion on this item? No? Councillor Tui.
Thank you, Mayor Roden. Just that we're lucky we live where we do and we can still have things outside. I personally just ordered a couple of heaters so that I can still have people sit outside, yeah.
Well, it's a very generous, I don't know if that's quite the right word, extension, which makes it much easier. Although I do understand that heaters, people who make those propane heaters are having a huge run. And lots of back orders. So obviously lots of people have the same idea, but hopefully we continue with the Indian summer.
Yep.
All right. Seeing no further discussion on the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 5.2, Councillor Anderson has a report received for information. Councillor Anderson, did you want to expand on anything in your report?
No, I think it's pretty clear. I thought it was some of the stuff coming out of UBCM was good. I've noted it in there, and yeah, no, I think I'm pretty thorough.
Great. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, I think, hearing the feedback from UBCM, because in the comments down the side, I was seeing a lot of comments from people saying they could not access it at home. They had to go to their office or their village office in order to get the computer access, because otherwise, I mean, I had one where I kept buffering.
Yeah, me too.
And it was frustrating, but they will all be up on, if they're not, I think today was the day they were going up on the UBCM website, so they will be there for a period of 3 months if you missed them, so.
Yeah, I wanted to watch the one with Dr. Henry. That was the one that I was having trouble with.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
having a lot of trouble
Yeah.
with that. It would get 10 seconds of conversation, and then it would just endlessly
Yep.
buffer.
I had a lot of difficulty getting on, and in the end, after talking with the helpline, because they were working with me for the longest time, I had to go to my personal computer because of a firewall for something they figured in,
Oh, yeah, and I was just using my personal.
and they said it was that they were having those issues across the province, so it wasn't just me, but I don't know why just me here.
But I found it ironic that one of the ones that I had trouble getting was one about the need for increased connectivity in this
Yeah,
digital
yeah.
world.
Yeah.
I was having trouble watching the presentation. I thought, well, they just proved their point in the first sort of 2 minutes of the talk, so,
But it was at first, so
yes.
there's always glitches with the first.
I thought the voting, once you got into the voting, you did your first one, and remembered to scroll down to hit confirm, I thought the voting system was very, very
That worked
good.
well, I thought, yeah.
Very impressive, so I think they did it. And of course, they were thrown a wrinkle at the last second by having the election called the day before, which I was very impressed to see that within 12 hours, they had a panel for the Tuesday morning or the Tuesday afternoon, the election, what does this mean, basically, out of nowhere. So that was very impressive. All right, bylaws for discussion, we have none. We move on to staff reports. 7.1, government street development. What is council's pleasure on item 7.1?
Sorry, I just have to find it on here.
Councillor Anderson.
So I would like to go with the staff recommendation that council appoint a member. Am I on the
No,
right government?
This is about the government street
I'm-
development?
Yeah, that's what
No,
it's.
you're gonna keep going back one more.
Oh,
The other way.
oh,
There
okay.
you go, where your options.
Oh, there we
Your
are,
options.
perfect. Oh, right, yes. Okay. So, let me just make sure I picked the right one, because I did think about this a lot, and it was I found it a little bit difficult to decide. So that council resolve to undertake and complete the storm runoff calculations if funding is secured and any proportionate costs not covered by grant funding be charged back to the developer.
All right, so recommendation 1.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Toohey, thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this item?
Yes.
Councillor
Yeah, I
Anderson.
just wanted to say that like I said earlier, it was a difficult decision, but, and I understand, the developer's perspective on needing to have numbers and figures and that whatnot, and the difficulty around it, and, the responsibility of having to pay toward this study. However, after looking at the calculations, I feel that it is more than fair. $800 roughly per housing unit is not a lot in the perspective of the overall costs. So, and also as a village too, to take the full responsibility of a study that costs that much, that's coming out of our taxpayers. And so I didn't think that was fair either.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's important to make the distinction between the runoff study and the calculation, which have sort of been conflated into one big mass. The calculation is separate from the storm drain study in North Ashcroft. And I think it's worth pointing out that because the calculations are now being done in tandem in conjunction with the storm drain study for North Ashcroft, because that storm drain study is not something that the village is doing because we want to undertake it, that will further reduce the costs of the calculation for developers.
Yeah.
So the $800 or the $1.08 per square meter is the absolute worst case scenario. That's with no grant funding, and that does not take into account the portion of the study that will be for the storm drains in North Ashcroft. So, I mean, I know that in my head, the two of them are interlocked, but that's why I'm not an engineer.
Your worship.
CFO Bella.
So I followed up with all the grant announcements and, and spoke to the province. On the ground, it doesn't need anything more other than announce, and they're formulating programs now. So we'll see what comes out. We already have grants under every stream, pretty much, so they won't let us get a second grant. They won't say, no, you can't apply, but basically, we've been indirectly told we need to work to finish what we have, and then we have opportunity to apply.
Okay. Any more comments or discussion on this question?
I do have a question. So based on what you just said, does that hold up the development?
No, we will proceed with the study.
Yes.
And we'll see what, we're just going to, so let me pull back. We'll just charge the prorated cost as we've come up with, and then we'll look at the study and grant in due course.
Okay.
Right? I would like to have a grant, but basically the instruction is that we finish our lift station, we finish
That
our,
takes some time.
all those things which we already have gotten grants for. So,
Councillor Davenport?
And what's the time frame for that, for finishing off those things?
They're all in progress. Some of them are bigger projects.
Mhm.
So, lift station another, year and a half. But, as the hot tub might not be another year, might be sooner. Curling, all of them,
Right.
so as each opens up, maybe more opportunities will open up. Plus now we have a government change and lots of announcements, and
Right.
I'm hoping for other funding too.
Right.
So we'll keep an eye out. I'm hopeful there'll be some funding for planning and drainage and, and under the environmental mitigation umbrella.
Great.
So-
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Tui?
Yeah, I just want to comment, I hope that, just because we've come up with this $898 or whatever it is per lot, that doesn't discourage the development. That they understand that we are working at it, and, just talking to the general people out there, most of them, they say, no, I don't want to pay for someone else's development. So I don't think it's a lot, and I don't think there'll be any difficulty in selling anything that's
Certainly.
developed there
Mhm.
with that, even with that added cost on, and knowing that, we're trying our best, and that most likely it won't be that much, so.
Well, I think it's more important than ever. We've seen the uncertain weather patterns, climate change, obviously. We've seen weather events that we have not seen before, and these show no sign of going away. They show every sign of being with us for the long term and increasing in intensity. So it behooves us as a government to make sure we're doing everything we can to safeguard not only the residents physically, but the residents financially, to ensure that we are doing our due diligence and making it safe for everyone. All right. Seeing no further discussion on the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 7.2, Bylaw Enforcement Officer. Do I have a recommendation here? Councillor Tui?
Thank you, Mayor Roden. I would like to move that we go with the recommendation, the council appoint a member to sit on the joint bylaw enforcement working group to explore the possibilities of sharing bylaw enforcement officer position with the communities of Cache Creek and Clinton.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Davenport. Any discussion on this item? Councillor Tui?
Thank you, Mayor Roden. Have we talked to either of the communities yet?
CAO
Okay.
Yes, Your Worship, we have. I met on the 24th with CAO Daly and Martin Delson from Cache Creek. And we had a general meeting, which is it appears that all communities are on board, and we're just looking to explore what our options are. I did some digging into EMBC funding for bylaw enforcement officers as well, so that is open. We are eligible for that funding, but only for COVID-19 related bylaw infractions or bylaw education, things like that. So whatever hours that bylaw officer would be spending doing COVID-19 public education pieces or checking the arena to make sure for compliance, we are able to bill back to EMBC. Everything else would be budgeted out of our regular budget. but it appears that everyone's really quite willing to move forward. COVID-19 has certainly raised a lot of bylaw issues. People are home, they're seeing, things are bothering them more, so we're getting a lot of complaints, and it does put a buffer between the enforcement and administration, because generally, once an infraction has been cited, the appeal process generally goes to the administration, but if administration is issuing the infraction, that appeal process is really isn't served very well to the public, so.
Great, thank you. Councillor Davenport?
We may have covered this before. Is there a formal education degree that a bylaw officer needs to have?
There are courses through the JIB that are available, and that was something that we discussed as well. It's really going to be dependent on what the working group recommendations to council are and what the three councils choose to move forward with. There's two types of ticketing information that we can use. We can use the municipal ticketing information, or we can use a bylaw adjudication process. And then we need to decide whether that bylaw officer becomes a staff person, and they're on board that way, or whether they're a contracted position. So those recommendations will come forward, and education will be a piece that's put into there. We feel that if it's a staff, just in conversation, that if it were to be a staff position that has, uniforms and vehicles supplied, those kinds of things, we'll more than likely get more qualified individuals as opposed to the contractor. But again, that'll be something that'll come out of the working group's decision process.
Is there anything readily available from the last time that the three communities went together on this? I believe it was Jamie Neighbor, who was the bylaw officer for all three communities. This is going back 9 or 10 years.
2013.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
okay, 7 years.
So I haven't found anything yet, but I'm continuing my search.
All right, thank you. Any other comments on this? So, anyone, hands up, who would like to be, okay. Councillor Anderson is volunteering to be on the committee. Is anyone else interested in being on the committee? I think possibly we should appoint an alternate just in case Councillor Anderson is unable to make a meeting, in which case Councillor Davenport. All right. No one else is shoving their hand up there, so. All right, so Councillor Anderson will be the appointee and Councillor Davenport will be the alternate. Excellent. So that is the motion. There's no further discussion on the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So I move that we take this into closed session under Community Charter Section 90.1.
Second.
Councillor Davenport seconds that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank
Do we
you.
have to have our question period?
We had it at the beginning.
Oh, we did move it to the beginning, sorry.
No.